G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Stu, that's Dyl, and we're the Fantasy Bros. We're very excited to have once again partnered with GameDay Squad this NRL season to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League in 2026. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Team List Tuesday has already dropped. We have plenty of points to discuss for all things Magic Round, which kicks off at 6 p.m. Friday. So an extra day to get those teams finalised before Friday's early kickoff. It's set to be an absolute cracker of a round here once again in Brizzy, despite the unfortunate omission of last year's minor premiers. The mighty Green Machine have been handed the dreaded Magic Round bye. So sadly, we won't see the Canberra Raiders turn out this weekend. What a shame. Dyl, welcome, mate. I know you've been a little bit unwell. Thanks for joining us, getting off your deathbed to jump on tonight's show. Before we get into positional previews and reveal the players that we hope to take us up the leaderboards, let's go around the grounds. Mate, how did you go in round 10?
G'day, Stu. G'day, viewers and listeners. Yeah, look, I'm always backed by science and data, and I know it's scientifically proven that man flu is much worse than any other kind of flu. So, no, I'm happy to be here. I'm good to go. If I do struggle a little bit, I'll make sure I try and get through as much as I can. Magic Round, I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite rounds of the season. A great celebration of all things rugby league along Caxton Street. It's always decked out, heaps of people, a lot of fun, and then there's always some unreal footy. And who can forget the last game of last season, your boys overcoming the odds against Melbourne Storm in that wet weather. I feel like we're probably going to have similar weather conditions this season. This year, it hasn't been looking too good today, particularly in Brisbane, and it's not looking to get any better. So the benefit is everyone's going to play in similar conditions, so there's no need to consider if rain's going to impact our scores or not. We're still going to run the same players that we always would. Yeah, look, round 10, a little bit of a forget round for me. 13th in under 24s, 13th in the Sunday Showdown. And then in terms of the full slate, so I had a 25th in champ as well as my best result. I just couldn't get the combination right, which is a few times has happened this season. I get some of the high scoring players, but I get them across the 3 or 4 different competitions and just cannot get a decent combination there. I had all of them, all there and abouts, just couldn't put it together. Ryan Couchman for me was my key player though, in under 24s. I had his platinum, so I put quite a bit of salary on him because he's just going so well. 66 there was his base, so I ended up with almost 90 GDS points in that under 24s comp. So I'm really keen to bank the Couchmans again this week for sure. But mate, a little bit better for you. How did you go this week? Oh, I think he may have dropped. Are you there, mate?
I'm here. Skip just joined us or something, has he?
Yeah. I was just saying, how have you gone in week 10?
Yeah, 5th in the Sunday Showdown. I was actually thinking I was on a second victory in 3 weeks after a Taylor May silver play in the early game there after he scored a big 100. Got pretty close there. 5th, I finished. 16th in Challenger, thanks to big Greggy Marju. 132 points in base, 5 tries, 7 line breaks, almost as many line breaks as tackle breaks. 8 tackle breaks, but 7 line breaks to his name. 240 odd run meters. An absolutely crazy game there by big Greggy Marju. And look, Dom Young on the other wing scored 80 GDS points as base, and you would have thought that was a pretty handy score for a winger. But Greggy Marju just said, hold my beer. And look at this 132. It was outstanding. Let us know in the comments section if you played Greggy Marju as well. We've got Mel here who's finally remembered to join us for the 6 p.m. kickoff. Great to see you here at the start of the show, Mel. As always, Sif Kanger is here getting nice and rowdy the way we like it. Let us know in the chat section who you played on the weekend just gone, how you went, and some of your pods or some of your big calls or big questions heading into Magic Round.
Yeah, it's definitely the big one. Is all the big questions. There's obviously a lot to get through today. But before we do, look, you can see we've had plenty of success. And I know for a fact that a lot of the people that watch and listen, they always contribute some of the success that they have to some of our analysis as well. So make sure that you join us each and every Wednesday. We'll be coming to you 6 p.m. live. Plus, we'll be live most Sunday afternoons, obviously, every now and then. There's a special event where we won't get there. We'll see how we go this weekend. It's going to be a big weekend for us as well. And you never know what we might be doing at Magic Round. So keep an eye out for that. But make sure you subscribe to all the things Fantasy Bros, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We are everywhere that you get all of your content. Make sure you're following along. There's plenty of things to consume. Wednesday nights, though, we'll be discussing our all-important start sits, and we'll reveal our consensus starter teams where you can sort of copy and paste and then play around with some of the bench spots as you like. We'll also obviously touch on some key salary pods, some key players for the under-24 competition, and then also have a bit of a conversation about that Stats Lab primetime comp. Again, a little bit reduced this week. We've just got the 2 games on the Friday, so super important you get those combinations right. And then, of course, we'll be plugging our FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. You've already got a ticket. I'm sweating on a ticket, so let's hope we can get that done. And then everyone's favourite at the end of the show, we've got the BroDown ShowDown, as always, where everyone can win plenty of cards if you get involved.
Absolutely. And the 3 games this Sunday Showdown as well could open the field up a little bit more than usual. It's not too late to get started in GameDay Squad either. Simply log onto the website or download the app and use the code FBRL26 when you're signing up for 3 9-player common packs. That'll give you plenty of cards to get some Challenger or Classic competition started, and you'll also be given a whole heap of bronze packs to get the starter comp rolling. And it's a great way to learn GameDay Squad. Even though you're starting 10 weeks late, you can still win plenty of weekly prizes and build up the bank and build up the card folder ready to attack it even bigger and better next season as well. So it's never too late. Use that promo code FBRL26 when signing up, or if you're catching up with anyone for Magic Round, let them know about GameDay Squad and get them signing up using that code as well. Righto, Dill, let's get into the positional previews. We'll start with hookers. We've got a big omission. Blake Brayley suffered that cap 1 last week. I think he and the Sharkies sort of tried to challenge that. They wanted him to make him available. Obviously, pushing for a Blues spot. I think he's got 1 lockdown, but would have liked a big performance here to sort of solidify that. But we won't have Blake Brayley. So our strongly considers in the hooker position, Reece Robson, Harry Grant, Damien Cook. A couple of points of difference there. Oliver Pascoe is so new that we can't even find a gold card. Managed to find a diamond version, but can't even find it.
Mate, I don't know what's going on with the internet. You keep dropping out, dropping in. Oh, I don't know. Get Skip out of the chat. Where is he gone?
Sorry about that. Yeah. Cross my fingers and my toes. It doesn't happen. I'm not even pressing anything, so I'm not sure why that's what's even going on yet. I'm not even clicking between any websites, not even spinning any wheels. Not sure where you got to, but as you can see on screen, Oliver Pascoe, Jaden Beryl as some point of difference players that haven't played many games this season. I think Beryl has shown a lot in the Queensland Cup, and he just hasn't had a start in NRL. Probably could have started for so many other clubs. I don't know why he stayed at the Sharkies, but I think he'll be a big player this week. Someone to look for the future or whenever Blakey Brayley goes down. The fades, JMK off the bench, looked okay. We want him getting back close to 80 minutes for him to be relevant. And then Wade Egan is going to be playing across most of your squads. No Blake Brayley. Is it next man up? Harry Grant, who's actually surged ahead of Blake Brayley on the averages, now topping the averages for all hookers after that nice big dominant performance there against the Tigers.
Yeah, it concerns me a little bit that it seems like it's just the easy play here. And Sif Kang has done the same. He is saying Grant as well. It seems way too easy. The Storm are looking really good. Grant's obviously back to his best. And Power are sort of a pretty easy matchup. They're allowing 39 to hookers. But that jumps up to 45 when looking at just the last month of footy. So that almost puts them in contention for the easiest matchup. That last month also includes a 6 from Wade Egan in round 9. So, and I think Wade got injured in that game and he played about half an hour of the game. So really that's a lot higher than what the stats is telling us. And obviously Grant, he's really good at being able to exploit through the middle, I think, quite a lot. And we saw that obviously on the weekend, and he was back to his absolute best and back to his fantasy best as well. And I think for me, it's just a little bit too difficult to go anywhere else but Harry Grant, purely based on the matchup, based on the way the Storm are performing. We knew that they were going to turn it around at some point. They did it up against a reduced Tigers side, and the Eels obviously had a big one last weekend, and maybe they're just not going to be able to recover in time. And I think the Storm at Magic Round, where we see some magic happen, I think Harry Grant's just the perfect one to be the wizard that does it all for us this weekend.
argue he'll be in most of my side as well. If anyone wants to get super spicy and go against Harry Grant, I think Reece Robson is a pretty good shout as well. He's performing really well at hooker, just not getting too many attacking stats. That's probably what separates him and Harry Grant. He's also starting to form a bit of a trend. The trend's someone like Harry Grant. So
I don't know what's going on, man. We'll keep pushing through. Look, the other pod that I think is super important here is obviously that man Beryl that comes in for Brayley. The way it's looking, it's shaping up that potentially he could just fill in that Brayley spot of 80 minutes on the park at hooker, and it could be just a simple play that we know he's going to rack up plenty of base stats through the middle. Riley Jones has got that 21 jersey at the moment, so he potentially could be a bit of relief in that hooker role. But yeah, having the 21 jersey sort of makes me think that he might drop out of that squad 24 hours before. If that's the case, it could be absolute wheels up for Beryl, where he could get it through a lot of base. Obviously, we haven't seen him play since 2024. And during that season, he only had 3 games off the bench. As you say, he's just been toiling away in the lower grades. And during that time, he had 3 games off the bench for 56 minutes combined. So it's a bit difficult to be able to make any assessment of how he's going to go. But look, he's up against probably the easiest matchup for all hookers this weekend against the Dogs. They've allowed 44 GDS points to starting hookers across the competition so far this season. So if Beryl comes in and just does the job and does pretty much a Brayley-esque type role, I think we could easily lock him in. If he does play 80 minutes, lock him in for 50 plus and be happy with that, where we know that someone like Harry Grant can fall off a bunch of tackles, he can make some errors, and then those demerits really start to hurt. If they add up, then yeah, Grant's attacking output and attacking upside can really be diminished because of that. So if you want a little bit more safety, and we can see that Riley Jones has dropped off, then yeah, maybe Beryl is the way to go. The question mark's going to be, can you find a Beryl card in your collection? It's probably not one that you've really looked at or thought about, so you might have to go and do a bit of a deep dive into your collection for sure. And as you touched on, JMK for me, I still just want to watch and wait. He obviously came on and was pretty dominant. With his first touch, he threw that long ball left and they ended up scoring in the corner. I think Cobbo, after that, the break down the right, and Jeremy Marshall-King put in that nice pass. But I just want to see it a little bit more. I really like what Max Plath's doing at hooker at the moment. And I feel like they're pretty happy to go with that, absorb a lot of the pressure early through Max Plath, and then let Jeremy Marshall-King come on and do a bit of damage through the middle. But yeah, without the 80-minute role or the 60-plus minute role even, I'm still just going to keep my eye on JMK for the next week or two and just see how that evolves. And then Wade Egan, I think he's far from his best that we've seen in the past. His matchup is tough against the Broncos, and we just don't get that Egan of old where we're getting plenty of output from base and power, unfortunately. So it's easy to put a line through him and fade him.
Yep, love it. Can't argue there. In short, play your Harry Grant.
Yeah.
Don't overcomplicate it. Let's jump into the middle forward position, and a position that has suddenly become more complicated given the fact that Jackson Ford, the man absolutely killing and being a staple in our middle forward position, has now been named on the bench. We'll get there soon. Well, you've actually got him listed as a fade. It'll be interesting to hear your take there soon. But in our strongly considers, we've got Alex Twile, Terrell May, and Toby Couchman. A couple of Broncos as our point of difference there, still minus Payne Haas. Point of differences there in Paddy Carrigan, and then Xavier Willison back into the middle where he is far more suited to fantasy. And then alongside Jacko Ford as a fade, got Isaiah Yeo, who's been a bit of a roller coaster as well, and a bit of an up-down sort of situation for him. Let's start with the easy plays, the plays that we're a little bit more confident in, being Terrell May, Alex Twile, and Toby Couchman. Are they, particularly the two Tigers boys, I think they've proven time and time again, provided, of course, they're on the team sheet. Obviously, the late Terrell May out was a bit of a kick in the guts for some coaches. And if you didn't have him on your bench, given that he was playing in one of the last games of the round, you were sort of stuck to trying to find a middle forward as well. So I think a few coaches may have been caught out by that. If you had an extra middle forward, he should have been in your starting side and Terrell on your bench. But if you're not too sure what I'm talking about, ask a question, hit me up on Discord, and I'll explain what I mean there. But I was able to put an edge forward in there instead. I don't think there were too many middle forward options that were as good. But those two boys probably head and shoulders, mate. And then you're a pretty big fan of Toby Couchman this week as well?
Yeah, I think May's an easy one as long as he is going to play. And by all means, the reason that he was out is not because of injury. So I think there's no reason why he shouldn't be playing. And alongside 12, they're just absolutely dominating through the middle for the Tigers. Whether they win or lose, I think it's a really simple play there. I do really like Toby Couchman, and we've talked about him quite a bit over the last few weeks, and he's probably back to his best. And it is, I guess, as a result of Ford being named on the bench that I am looking at someone like Toby Couchman over Ford, as we've been going to, or even Yo, and we'll talk about Yo in a moment. But look, in a losing side, he's put up another strong base and power stat line against the Knights last weekend. 38 tackles, 130 running meters, and then 2 tackle breaks as well in there. It's just a really nice stat line to look at and know that you're going to get that sort of base and power from someone like that, particularly when they're stuck in this absolute pit that they just can't get out of the Dragons. They're really struggling to find their rhythm, to find their combinations. It's not really working. They're trying different things. Gutho in centre, Sloan to fullback. Nothing's happening for them. Outside of the 2 Couchmans, they seem to just be the shining lights in terms of fantasy scoring. So, look, I'm keen to play both of them. Obviously, in under 24s, they're plug and plays every week. But then Toby in my main squads as well across the full round slate. I think he's going to be someone that will fill that role quite nicely. Maybe he's not going to get as many points as a Jackson Ford would if he was playing 80 minutes, but you can definitely bank on that 50 plus base. And then anything on top of that is quite nice. And we've seen a couple of offloads from Toby in the past, and we've seen some attacking upside. So yeah, happy to lock him in. From there, it's just going to be the decision around, do we play the 4th middle, or do we load up on edges where there's some really good matchups this weekend and there's some really good opportunity to exploit. For me, I haven't quite decided yet. There's a couple of hot options there that I really like, but I just don't know whether I'm going to just play the 3 middles and load up elsewhere. What are your thoughts around middle versus edge rotation?
Yeah, this week's tough, isn't it, with Jacko Ford? Obviously, with the Dragons being named, Dragons playing really late there against Penrith, if there is any change there, the Warriors do play before them. So, like you said, you're probably more confident with Jackson Ford if he starts, might get that 75 minutes. So there could be an easy pivot there from Couchman to Ford. Just don't like the naming of the bench there. That role is really uncertain. Maybe Mitchy Barnett has been given a bit of an audition to put his hand up for another New South Wales Origin jersey. So yeah, I think the middle forward position is pretty tough this week. So I think there's plenty of edge forward options. I just haven't been able to nail the top 3 or 4. And I'm sort of picking the guys finishing 7th, 8th, 9th instead of nailing those top few. So when we get to the edge forward position next, I think there's plenty of guys there that we're a little bit more confident in, with plenty of attacking upside and some decent matchups on paper as well. So I think this is a week where I'm going to chase that upside and go for some of those edge forwards that are still getting plenty of base, but can find the try line as well. In case you're not as game to attack some extra edge forwards on the bench, there's a couple of Broncs there that have been pretty handy points of difference lately. Tell me about Paddy Carrigan, mate, and then I'll have a little bit of a chat about Xavier Willison.
Yeah, I think it's just following on from what you said last week about Pat Carrigan without Payne Haas. I think the stats tell a pretty clear story. With Payne in the side, Paddy's averaged 72 minutes and 51 GDS points. Without him, he's averaging 80 minutes and 64 GDS points. So to me, it's just a really simple play there that obviously Paddy gets more involved. He has a lot more work to make up for that massive hole that's left by Payne Haas. And it's obviously... The good thing as well is when you have a look at those stats and you zoom in a little bit, Paddy's been really efficient in the last 2 games in particular, where he's missed only 1 tackle from 92 in the past 2 weeks, which is absolutely unreal. He obviously is getting through a mountain of work there in the middle, but he's making sure he's being super efficient, and fatigue is not meaning that we lose all those demerit points from those missed tackles. So that's a 3-to-1 tackle break to missed tackle ratio for him as well. And that is just some excellent stats from a middle forward. So I think, yeah, if I do get there, if I have a 4th middle, it means Paddy Carrigan's going to get in that side. And it does mean that if we hear something about Jacko Ford, then maybe Jackson Ford takes the Carrigan role. And I'll talk a little bit more about Jackson Ford and why I'm fading him soon. But I think for me, it's Carrigan's slightly over Willison, unless you can convince me otherwise.
No, I don't think I can, just because we need some upside from Willison to really make it count. With Paddy locked in for the 80 minutes, we know he's going to get through plenty of tackles. His efficiency is fairly high as well, so he's not going to miss too many. Whereas Willison probably needs that big game full of tackle breaks and even moving off to the edge for the last 10 or 15, where he can run at a tied half or back rower and crash over like he has done plenty of times before. So I think the safety there is in Paddy Carrigan. I think you can't go wrong there while Haas is out. But Xavier Willison, if he gets the minutes, his score can be anything. And he's proven that he does have a motor as well. Not just this season, but in a number of seasons past, he's had to play big minutes due to injuries or through Origin. And every single time he's got the number 8 or the number 10 on his back, he seems to be able to just deliver. And there's a week that might happen again. He's back from the edge. It hasn't been working when he's been on the edge. He's back into the middle forward rotation now. The Bronx are down on some troops, and this may be the big game where he does, ram over a few blokes, break plenty of tackles, and maybe even find a cheeky try there as well. So I think that might be the upside play. Carrigan's probably the more safe play. But in saying that, I think I'm not too sure I can get to a Broncos play this round when we've got those Tigers Couchman there as well. Still umming and ahhing about Isaiah Yeo. We've touched on Jacko Ford a bit, but give us a bit of info why Isaiah Yeo is a bit of a fade for you this round.
Yeah, it's tough. Like you said, potentially giving Mitch Barnett that opportunity to just showcase one more time why he's good enough to be in that New South Wales side. Plus maybe going up against the Broncos where Mitchy Barnett is going to land. Potentially that might be a little bit of a pre-revenge game. I don't know if that's such a thing, the storyline there. But yeah, I think if Ford does stay on the bench and we're not seeing any silly buggers from Andrew Webster, then I'd expect a similar sort of output to last season's games that he had from the bench. He averaged 47 minutes, and in those 47 minutes, he averaged 48 GDS points. Great PPM. It's what we want to see from a middle forward. It's just not enough, and it's not enough time on the field. Was averaging 33 tackles, 130 running meters, and 2.5 tackle breaks. But then there was also some demerits in there as well, and quite a few demerits through the middle compared to what we saw this season. It also concerns me that in round 17 last season, he came off the bench against the Broncos. In this corresponding matchup, he played 40 minutes of footy and he scored 21 GDS points. So if history is going to repeat itself, then I'm happy to leave him out. But if any coaches want to take a risk on him, we've got to just hope that he improves from that output and he sees a little bit more time on the field, because he's been playing 80 minutes. So there's no reason why he couldn't. I'm not sure, unless there's a particular injury that we don't know about, that maybe they're resting him up a little bit and just easing him back into something. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, for me, I think if he stays on the bench, then I'm putting a red line through him. It's simple as that. If he does get named to start in the 24-hour or the 90-minute teams, then yeah, I'll be making that pivot. Probably Paddy Carrigan, if I do play him, will go straight to Jackson Ford. If not, maybe the Couchman play, just based on that's still quite a tough matchup, and Jackson Ford's output's just that little bit better. So yeah, it's all going to come down to that 90 minutes beforehand.
Yeah, don't mind that whatsoever. Given that, the Jacko Ford, if he can get get the start, we expect him to go 75. But it's probably because he's been playing those big 75-minute games that he's just getting that extra little bit of a rest, and maybe just resting that body, particularly when he may be playing Origin as well, and he's going to have an even bigger workload over the next couple of months. But yeah, he's been absolutely dominant. Rightio. If you're happy with the middle forwards, mate, we might jump over to the edge forward position.
Yep, definitely. Let's do it.
And before we do so, we got Matty P, the circus crew, in the chat saying g'day. Just a quick shout out there to Matty P, circus crew, just about joining us on the Fantasy Bros live stream most Wednesdays, and fell agonisingly close of the Classic Cup Grand Final, didn't you, mate? Well done for making the semi-final. Super close. I know it's heartbreaking falling one step short there, but well done, buddy. Plenty of prizes along the way, and hopefully you keep joining us and you keep enjoying the show that we're presenting. Obviously must be doing something good if you're making it to the semi-final. Well done, mate. Thanks for joining us. Rightio, Dyl, let's get in the edge forward positions. Our strongly considers Haumole Olakau'atu in some red hot form. So is Siwa Wong. Dill Lucas and the Knights' left edge is on absolute fire. To me, they look like some pretty strong plays with some pretty handy matchups as well. Points of difference. Ryan Couchman, the other Couchman, I think named in the number 13 jersey, probably going to move back to the bench like we always see, but who knows? Likely to get through plenty of work through the middle there as well, and he's been fantastic every single time he gets the opportunity. Leka Halasima, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about him as your big pod for the round. And we're fading a couple of big boys there in Harlem Lukey, Angus Crichton. Pretty tough matchups. Haven't been quite getting it done in terms of Angus Crichton, but I think there's plenty of other edge forwards to look at. Let's start the strongly considers. Is Haumole Olakau'atu the number one edge forward at the moment?
He has to be, doesn't he? He's playing some unreal footy, and even without Fogarty in the side the last 2 weeks, he's still playing some really good footy. Obviously, Joey Walsh playing some electric footy as well himself, and it's great to see he gets a little bit of a start in the side, and he's lighting it up. Obviously, sliced through and scored a try himself as well, which was great to see. But yeah, holy moly, is super high on my list, and I think he's going to be one of the most played edge forwards this week. It's not only his consistency that I'm really happy to back, but it's that flimsy defense of the Tigers at the moment. They've given up, 90 odd points in the last 2 weeks of actual NRL. So I think it's really easy to see that more than likely Olakau'atu is going to really dominate on that right side. Last week, if we go and have a look at the Storm game against the Tigers, Lasardi had 8 tackle breaks down that side and a try as well. So I think someone like Olakau'atu is going to do similar damage, if not more. And we know that Ola is getting through plenty of tackle breaks, which is 3 points in GDS every time he makes a tackle break, and they add up super quick. And it takes a score from almost nothing to something massive when they can get through 5 to 8 tackle breaks in a game. So we'll expect something similar from Ola. And he didn't score last week, so I guess we back him to score this week as well against that Tigers team that's really struggling.
9 tackle breaks for Olakau'atu, 27 points just through tackle breaks. Didn't find the try line or a try assist, but 58 GDS points is definitely nothing to be disappointed about when your edge forward doesn't find any attack. He also got 9 tackle breaks 2 matches prior, so it's not like a flash in the pan and it was a one-off. This is a big man. This is a man that can break tackles, and like you said, that Tigers matchup is looking pretty juicy, particularly when they've been leaking pretty significantly over the last few weeks when they've had a few injuries. Siwa Wong is also someone that is consistently getting through plenty of base, but plenty of attacking upside, and gets that favourable matchup that we've spoken about ad nauseum over the last number of rounds. And that's the Cowboys' left-hand defensive edge. Pairing up there with Daly Cherry Evans, he's going to be too clever, I think, and he's going to know the Cowboys' weakness, and they're going to be attacking that side of the field most of the night, I would imagine. And that just means Siwa Wong has every chance of breaking through the line and scoring a try. When he's getting the minutes, he's an absolute workhorse. He's outshining Angus Crichton incredibly well every single time they both take the field. And if there's any Roosters that you want to play this weekend with a nice matchup there against the Cowboys that are up and down, they can be pretty good, but they're also leaking plenty of points. I think Cherry Evans and Siwa Wong are going to take full advantage of that, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Siwa crash over and score a try here at Magic Round. Is that somewhere you're looking this week too?
Yeah, and it's probably, for me, it was a conversation and a discussion around Siwa Wong versus Dill Lucas, and it just purely comes down to that matchup data and going slightly the way of Siwa Wong at the moment. Obviously, Lucas must have a big game in him. We saw a try and not quite as many points as what we would expect when he does cross over for a try last week. So he's obviously got a big game left in him. But I think just the Cowboys allowing an average of 46 GDS points down that right edge in terms of attack, whereas the Titans defensively, they're sort of locking it up a little bit more on the left edge attackers and only allowing 35 GDS points this season. So yeah, just purely based on those numbers at the moment, I'm leaning towards Siwa Wong. The Roosters are, the front runners of the competition at the moment, outside the, dare I say it, the Warriors and the Panthers, which is crazy to say. But yeah, the Roosters are in some really good form at the moment. And part of that is that combination, as you touched on. The other part of it is that James Tedesco is getting his hands on the ball a lot more, and he's ball playing as much as any of the halves are at the moment as well. And that's, I think, contributing to the reasons why we're seeing big scores from Wong and from DC as well. That's just a little bit of pressure off and a little bit more opportunity for both of them. So I think, yeah, Siwa Wong for me is the next best. From there, there's a list. There's Dill Lucas that you touched on. There's Lasardi, who's playing some really good footy now that he's back in the Storm. There's Couchman, as we touched on as well. And then there's Leka Halasima, who's been pretty quiet the last few weeks. We haven't really spoken about him at all, and there's some good reasons behind it. But I feel like it's that matchup again. I think we've talked about that Broncos left side defensive matchup a lot recently, and it's simple. They're not making their tackles. We've got a new combination there as well. Mam paired with Jaden Hunt now on that side, I assume, if it looks like that way. So, I mean, it just means that there's every opportunity that Leka the Wrecker just absolutely dominates that side of the field. and we see some tackle breaks and maybe a try from him where we know that he can. The downside is obviously, I feel like he's a bit like the David Fafita types of old, where he sort of goes missing for half the game and then has a big play or two and looks like he's the best fantasy option in the world, but his score doesn't reflect that because he's just been super quiet sitting behind the ruck for most of the game. So, yeah, it's hard to pick a big lekker game, but if it has to be one, it has to be Magic Round Sunday afternoon up against the Broncos. Technically a Warriors home game, and I would expect that the fans that come out will very much be dominated by Warriors supporters. So it could be a big one there. Look, the other thing, Hunt, he's coming off the bench the last couple of weeks. He's starting for the first time. In the last 2 weeks, he's missed 2 tackles from a possible 33, while Mam is only 1 tackle away from hitting the big 5-0 for this season. Missed tackle, that is. So I think there's going to be plenty of missed tackles there for Lecker to run through.
Unfortunately, there's probably also plenty of missed tackles for Lecker to make. He's missing 3.4 per match.
Yes.
Just having a quick look through his numbers. He played 80 minutes against the Finns in round 8. He scored 11.6 missed tackles, 3 errors, 3 penalties conceded. Had a much better outing against the Eels, but only got the 57 minutes. Scored the try, 4 tackle breaks, just the 1 missed tackle, but still 3 errors. But it was more impressive, just didn't get the time on the park. So, yeah, with someone whose minutes are sort of all over the place, who can go, let's be honest, sub 10. He got an 8 in 80 minutes against the Storm. He got a 10 in 66 minutes against the Tigers. Gee, you're playing with fire there, really. But the floor is minimal. The ceiling can be pretty high. We probably haven't quite seen the ceiling game yet. The 2 tries against the Raiders in round 2, you probably would have been licking your lips going, I've got his prize card. We're on big things here. He just hasn't really delivered since. But maybe that first try in 6 weeks, last round there against the Eels, maybe that was the bit of confidence he needed to get back amongst the try-scoring, tackle-breaking, 80-minute performance that we have come to expect from Big Lecker. Good luck if you go in that direction. Matty P has said he came up against Knickers in the semi-final. Knickers came second for the round. Pretty tough to beat them unless you obviously win the round. Well done, Matty. A great run. And if anyone wants any advice from the Classic Cup semi-finalist, he's going Olakuatu, Siwa Wong, like Dyl and I are pretty keen on. Then he's going to play a bunch of Dill Lucas, Toby Couchman, Ryan Couchman, Finny Fuiaki, and Atu Lasati. Dyl, is Lasati becoming the real deal? He sits atop the averages for edge forwards, and it's not just one match that he's played. We've got 4 games worth of data, and one of them was returning from injury with just 66 minutes. He's on top of the averages by 7 points. He's an tackle-breaking edge forward. 8 tackle breaks again against the Tigers with a late try, 83 GDS points. His only game sub-50 was 49 in 63 minutes returning from injury. Back to 80 minutes already in his second game post-injury outside Jerome Hughes. Melbourne Storm on fire. Is he a big consideration?
Yeah, and he's got a really good matchup. The Eels are giving up 54 GDS points on average to right edge forwards. So I expect that combination, as you touched on, the Hughes-Lasati combination to be dominant. And I think a lot of coaches want to get a piece of both of it, not just one or the other. I think that a lot of coaches would have been rewarded with Lasati's score last week if they had them in their FantasyBros Sunday Showdown side as well. So, yeah, I'm going back to the well with him. I haven't really played him too much this season. There's been some, what I would think, better options, but he just keeps showing time and time again that he is just super dominant, and it's all about the tackle breaks and then that try scoring upside as well. So, yeah, he's going to find a way into my side. So it means that Olakuatu, Wong, and Lasati are there. Dill Lucas, though, for me, I'm just not sure. And I'm going to probably be a bit like Matty P and diversify a little bit, which scares me because that's the reason why I didn't do well last week, is because I just couldn't get the combination right. Is Dill Lucas someone that we can trust? Is the matchup seems to be good on paper, but then the data that I suggested, maybe it looks otherwise. Are you going to Dill Lucas, or is he someone that we're just going to look at maybe playing in a pod team?
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more I'm probably going to go for those 3 that you mentioned in Wong, Olakuatu, and Lasati. But Knights are on absolute fire, and that left side is humming. Greg Imaju did score 5. Bradman Best had a field day with try assists. It's not always going to be that good for the centre and the winger. There's going to be occasions where, Dill Lucas reaps some of those rewards, even backing up. But he's a bloke that gets through plenty of work. I think just when the Knights are attacking so well, they've got the the poor Titans, you probably expect the Knights to put on another pretty big performance here. Whenever the Knights are expected to be big winners, Dill Lucas is typically around the fantasy points, and that may happen again this week. Probably can't get him in all sides. Mate, someone that we have been playing pretty frequently. He's the 5th best edge forward. Just tell me quickly why Hilam Lukey doesn't interest you at all this round.
Yeah, I think it's just the matchup, really. The Roosters are just a tough matchup. They're restricting all edge forwards to only 37 GDS points. That's the second hardest matchup for both sides of the field as well. So I wouldn't be expecting many coaches to be looking at that matchup in particular. The Roosters are on fire. The Cowboys, yeah, they're a good attacking side, but they obviously got done last minute or golden point, even in extra time there against the Eels. So I think for me, it's just an easy fade. The other one that we don't have listed there is actually Preston up against the Sharks. It looks like a decent matchup if you go to the Stats Lab matchup data, which we have been using, and we look at edge forwards. It looks like a really good matchup, but then we filter just to right side edges, and Sharks are really only giving up 47 GDS points there. Not as good as some of the other matchups that we've talked about. So there are some better options across that full slate. So I'm just going to keep Jacob Preston in my prime time slot and nothing else, and just hope that I'm rewarded in that prime time with his big performance, and then I can still get big performances elsewhere with some of the other players that I'm looking at.
Yep, exactly the same thinking as me with Jacob Preston. Right, mate, let's move to the halves. We've got Nathan Cleary averaging 81 GDS points through the first 10 weeks. The Dragons take on the Penrith Panthers Sunday evening, mate, with a bit of rain around and all 8 matches being played on the same surface. Is Nathan Cleary, is there any concerns over that game, scoring points or Cleary getting his hands on try assists? I don't think anyone would really want to consider fading Nathan Cleary, but maybe something to consider, although, like you mentioned last year, the final game of the round, despite torrential weather, field held up okay, didn't it? And we saw plenty of points. Nicho Hynes, Jamal Fogarty strongly considers alongside Nathan Cleary as well. Tanner Boyd, Fletcher Sharp, points of difference with nice matchups, plenty of points on offer there. We're fading a big gun here in Jaden Campbell and Isaiah Katoa. Dill, I presume Cleary is a definite for you. Let us know who your other 2 halves are that are likely to feature in most of your sides.
Yeah, just quickly, big shout out to Coach Stephen. He's commented, said, cheers for the content, lads. Terrible round for him last week, so I need to trust the bros this week. So good on you, Stephen, for joining us. Hopefully we can steer you in the direction of 3 really good halves, Cleary being one of them. The second one, Nicho Hynes, I think is hopefully going to bounce back from last week. He has a really plus matchup this week. And I think after last week's performance, maybe his percentage ownership is going to decrease a little bit. So potentially could be that nice little point of difference across some of the other players. So obviously, Fogarty and Hughes are going to be highly owned as well because of their matchup. So I think if anyone's keen to sort of get that point of difference, back the matchup and back the talent and Nicho Hynes, I think they're going to get rewarded. The Dogs are allowing an average of 54 GDS points to right halves in the last month. This season. In the last month, that soared to 63 GDS points. They've allowed scores of 53 to Clifford, high 63s to both Cody Nix and Adam Reynolds, and then a 75 to Mitch Moses. So I think Hynes really is probably slightly better than quite a few of those players there that we've talked about. And I think that for that reason, Hynes is going to have an absolute field day. The Sharks are going to have to bounce back and have a big game as well. Obviously, the return of Ronnie Muatalo is going to make a difference in that side too. So I think, Nicho Hynes for me is going to be probably second or third in the rankings this week for the halves. There, it's a toss-up between do we run with Jerome Hughes or do we run with Jamal Fogarty? I'm slightly leaning Jamal Fogarty. We've obviously missed him the last 2 weeks. And to be honest, I would have loved if Foz had just made the decision, rest him 1 more week, don't name him, so we know definitely he's out. So then we don't have to make that late decision as we are looking at whether he actually is taking the field or whether he is actually taking the training pitch as well. I know he sat out 1 training last week and that sort of confirmed that he was out. But look, if we get any news that he's out, then it's Hughes straight in. But if not, then I think it's Fogarty up against the struggling Tigers. They've allowed an average of 69 GDS points in the last month to right halves. That's where Hughes is going to face up. Look, and there's plenty of points there. So I think it's it's Jerome Hughes over Jamal Fogarty if Fogs is not named. But I think for me, it says Jamal Fogarty.
Big difference between the two. Fogarty obviously kicking the goals. We expect plenty of points in both matches, but Fogarty's going to kick those conversions there against the Tigers, and he's obviously ticking up in threes when he does so. Obviously puts boot to ball in general play a lot, and racks up the kicking meters as well. So I got Fogarty just ahead of Jerome Hughes as well, but the Storm showing a little bit of life last week, and a bit better game from Jerome Hughes as well. The plus matchup there, I don't think you can go wrong with either. But some 4 really good matchups there. Dill, if anyone wants to get spicy, the Cowboys, again, we've spoken about them a few times. They're allowing plenty of points down that right-hand side. That's why we like Siwa Wong. DCE, he hasn't really been a guy that we have played in GDS recently. His fantasy days are probably a little bit behind him. Can we get one more game out of DCE, or if we have to go a rooster, is it likely to be Sammy Walker, who, let's be honest, does float both sides of the field, does kick the conversions? We are expecting plenty of points scored by the Roosters. DCE, predominantly the right half, but if you had to go one or the other, is there any love for DCE, or would it be Sammy Walker?
Yeah, it's tough, as you said. DCE generally on the right side of the field. Sammy Walker's sort of floating across and playing everywhere, and also James Tedesco, as I said, is playing that sort of first receiver and can play anywhere. He's actually playing first, second, third receiver as well. Yeah. He's getting involved in a bit of everything. So for me, it generally, because DC is sort of looked at as a right side half, then I would have to go that way. The Cowboys are allowing an average of 68 to right side halves this season, whereas on the left side, they're restricting them to only 42. So it seems like there's some defensive issues down that left side of the Cowboys in defense. So for me, that would be leaning towards DCE. But I think, Sammy Walker is definitely going to find a spot in my under 24, because I think he can still get some positives out of that matchup as well. But for me, the potentially it might be going back to Tanner Boyd and the dominance that he's been showing recently. Obviously, some news around at the Warriors with Lukey Metcalf requesting potentially a release and starting to shop himself around. The old compassionate grounds might have been thrown around earlier in the week as well, which is a little bit disappointing to hear. But anyway, it just means that Tanner Boyd obviously has a lot to prove again to show why he's one of the best halves in the competition. And he's up against the Broncos, as I said, juicy matchup. They're allowing 58 GDS points to right half. So I might lean the way of Tanner Boyd, just because there's some question marks around who's going to be more dominant between DCE and Sammy Walker, because they're playing so well together. And it sort of goes back and forward as to who's going to score better. So it would be Tanner Boyd over those two, but just.
Yeah, I like that. Warriors players seem to be a little bit forgotten about, given that they've just come off the bye. I think that always tends to happen when we don't have last week's data to go on. Those sorts of players are typically forgotten about. And Tanner Boyd was a pretty solid play just about every single round. Lukey Metcalf wasn't named, so there's no reason why he can't be amongst the points again. I'm still waiting for a big Fletcher Sharp game. He'll get plenty of salary for my under 24s. It's just not quite happening. He's looking really good, linking up with Ponga, Lucas. The Knights are scoring plenty of points. It's just not translating to Fletcher Sharp. The other blokes around him are getting it done, despite him, looking pretty good and getting more confident each game after that knee injury he suffered right back in round one over in Vegas. But there's going to be a breakout game for Fletcher Sharp. We're going to be talking about him at length at some point for the rest of the season. So he's going to keep getting a spot in my under 24s, and he's always attempting play in at least one pod team, particularly when we think the Knights are going to get plenty of points. But as we've spoken about, plenty of strong plays outside of Fletcher Sharp. But fortunately, we can roll him out in our under 24s. Mate, someone that we have on the strongly considers just about every week, Jaden Campbell, a very good half, can rack up plenty of fantasy points. He's not so much a fade, but more of just I'm not going to play this round. Let us know why.
Yeah, just having a quick look over on StatSlape. He's currently played in 47% of teams. So he is the third most played half behind Cleary and Nico Hines at the moment. So could potentially be a bit of an antipod, I guess, in a way. Yeah. Maybe looking at a few other options. But on paper, the matchup doesn't look too bad. Although it's just that full-strength night side who it just could be that it spells disaster for JC. He's in the top 10 halves for sure, but I just don't think he's going to make my top 5. And I guess the benefit is, and the reason why I'm kind of not playing him across my full slate, is he's playing Sunday. So if we want a piece of JC, then I think it's the perfect opportunity to put some salary on him in FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. But I just think that night side they're just restricting, obviously only over the last couple of weeks where they've sort of come back together as a full side, but they're restricting halves quite a lot in that last 2 weeks, more so than across the rest of the season. So it's just that small sample that I'm going off at the moment. But yeah, we said last week, is he matchup proof? He didn't really do too much against the Roosters. And as a result, his score probably wasn't as high as what we've seen in the past. So I think for me, yeah, it's not necessarily a fade. I've got better options that I'm going with in some of those guys that we've talked about. And Jerome Hughes isn't even on the screen there. And he's probably that fourth half that I'm looking at the moment in terms of my rankings. So yeah, JC just slightly outside that top 5.
The Knights are going to send so much traffic down that side of the field. He's bound to slip off a few tackles, just given the sheer volume that we expect the Knights to go down. He's going to make plenty of tackles, but every time he drops off one, that little body, that's -3. And yeah, I think the Knights are going to run over the top of the Titans. Yeah, mate, let's talk about the centre position. No Adam Doueihi once again. We don't get that out-of-position gun. We thought Tolu Kula would be an out-of-position gun playing in the fullback position for Manly. Hasn't really happened. And look, we spoke about it on the show last Wednesday. There's a bit of a reverse Latrell Mitchell effect where his scores are actually worse at fullback. But we didn't need to worry about that. He got moved back to the centres, had a really nice game, just shy of 60 points, scored a try. Even though he's not roaming both sides of the field, he's just looking so much more damaging when he's getting early ball there on the left. His speed is just electrifying there in the centre position. Alongside Herbie Farnworth, I presume they are going to be two very popular plays. Casey McLean puts his hand up for another popular play. Plenty of points are expected to go down that channel of the field against the Dragons, like we saw happen last week with the Newcastle Knights in Bradman Best and Greggy Marju. Points of difference, Dane Gagai, Nick Meaney could be amongst the points as well if they're tempting. Tommy Chester, Taylor May have both been really good over the last few weeks and some big scores between the two. Probably just not expecting them to hit their ceilings with some pretty tough matchups, and certainly not Taylor May going back-to-back hundreds if you think his score is going to be fairly consistent. But, mate, the strongly considers 2 centres. I doubt we're going to play a third in our side. Is it pretty simple, just going Herbie and Kula?
Yeah. Yep, I think it is. It's don't overthink it. If you've got Herbie and Tola Kula, get them into your side. Herbie's matchup proof. He's got a bunny side who on paper look like a tough matchup, but have allowed left centres over the last couple of weeks to score 50 plus on both occasions. Farnworth as well. He currently sits at the top of the leaderboard for most tackle breaks with 61 across 9 games. Kerry Weeks is actually second at the moment, tied with James Tedesco on 59, but Kerry Weeks has played 10 games. So massive difference there. Herbie's also got 33 offloads, which is far more than any centre, almost double the next best centre. So I think you're going to get a lot of output from Herbie as always. And then it's just that cooler matchup that, yeah, it's pretty crazy to think that, as we spoke about, the out-of-position play was going to be the absolute smash play of him going to fullback, having more time and possession with the ball, playing both sides of the field, using his speed to absolutely dominate teams. We just didn't see it, and he returns to the centre and he puts up a really decent score there. So, yeah, difficult to read for that. But also what's difficult to read is the Tigers in terms of what they allow to left centres. This season, they've restricted players to a low of 4, but then also they've allowed a high of 80 GDS points. So, and then there's every score in between that as well. But I think Tigers low on troops. They're coming off the back of 2 games where they gave up 40 plus. I think Manly could rip them to shreds, and Tola Kula is going to be heavily involved in all of that. So I think, yeah, just get those 2 in your team and not necessarily need to play any cute games there.
Yeah, and he gets that defensively poor right edge of the Tigers. I think Manly are going to shift the ball to that side of the field pretty frequently, and I think he's going to be too good with his speed there up against Paddy Herbert, who's going to fall off plenty of tackles. Casey McLean, Sif Kanga is thinking he's a pretty good play this round. I love it, particularly after seeing what Bradman Best did last week. Dill, you've got here the Dragons are allowing 51 points to left centres. He'll be a big a slam dunk play, I think, in that under 24 comp, and probably with a bit of salary as well to separate that play from the rest of the field, who are likely to play him anyway. But tell us about Nick Meaney, who could have a positive matchup here for the Storm, on the rise, kicking goals against the Eels that are pretty leaky to left centres.
Yeah, and it's probably a name that we talked about a little bit last season, probably not as much this season, but Nick Meaney probably comes into contention maybe as that 3rd or 4th centre. And if you do want to point a difference where maybe you're not keen on playing that Tolakula or you don't have a Herbie Farmworth card. By the way, if you don't have one of these cards and you are new to GameDay Squad, make sure you hit us up on Discord or Instagram. We'll try and get you some of these cards in bronze so you can get your starter team sorted. But yeah, look, Meaney could be the play for me. It's the positive matchup, as you said, up against the Eels. They're allowing an average of 56 GDS points to left centres. That includes a try to every left centre in the past 5 games. And in fact, they've given up a try in every game except for 2 this season to left centres. So if Nick Meaney's lining up there, he might mean that goes up in 10s and 3s because he obviously has that goal kicking as well. But yeah, look, the Storm are going to continue rolling on, I think, like they did. Obviously, there's been some media around earlier in the week and about some of the poor shenanigans from media pundits and the Craig Bellamy issues that are going on, but hopefully the Melbourne Storm can overcome that, and they're going to have another massive game up against the Eels. The Eels have allowed the most NRL points scored against them this season with something like 345, which is a lot more than any other team at the moment. So I think the Storm can really dominate and put points on for fun.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't think we need to overthink the centre position. Plenty of handy options there, particularly Herbie, Tolu, Cooler. Mate, let's get on the wingers. No AJ this round. I thought he would have been a really nice play with Latrell Mitchell returning. Obviously got that injury, scored about a hat-trick on one leg last round. He's going to be an interesting player of discussion later on this season, post-Origin, when the Rabbitohs and Trell Mitt are back and firing. But strongly considers we've got a knight that has entered the fray. Greggy Marju after his massive 130. Tommy Jenkins gets that same matchup that Marju had last week. And Sua Fa'alongo, Melbourne Storm fans, breathing a sigh of relief there, expected to miss a number of weeks through a facial fracture, cleared of any serious injury, and named and set to return this round. So not going to miss a match whatsoever. Unfortunately, I think that means that there are 3 really good options in the winger position. I'm not keen to play 3 wingers in my side. But then we got Brian To'o, who is a massive point of difference on the other side of the field, where Dom Young scored 80 and scored a handful of tries himself. Dan Tupou's got a really nice match up there on the end of a red-hot Roosters backline. And we're fading a couple of Dolphins here against the Rabbitohs that are defensively very sound on their left-hand side. So the right-hand opposition in Azarko and Bostock. Probably the Latrell Mitchell impact, probably just running over the top of them. So they're missing tackles left, right, and center, and getting so many demerits that their GDS scores just aren't good enough. But mate, let's just focus on those strongly considers there. 3 really good options: Marju, Tommy Jenkins, Sua Fa'alongo. How do we pick the best 2?
Yeah, the Sua one's tough because he obviously has recovered. He's been named to play. The early reports was the facial fracture, and he seems like he is okay. It's a difficult one to consider that he shouldn't have any long-lasting effects in terms of taking it into the next game. And unlike some soft tissue injuries that we've talked about previously, there's obviously no concern about the concussion aspects of it as well. So I think you can play him with some confidence. It's obviously if he is then dropped out of the squad for whatever reason, then there might be some concerns. The other thing that people might question is maybe Sua will be capped against the Eels. They've been pretty good against fullbacks, only allowing 48 GDS points, whereas a lot of our other matchups that we'll talk about in terms of fullbacks, a lot of them are sort of in that 50 range at the moment as well. So, that's going to be a really interesting one. In particular, the last 4 weeks have gone less than 50 in particular against the Eels. And in fact, some of them are below 40 as well. So I don't know if it's going to be the smash play that we usually assume from Sua compared to some of the other players, but it's hard to leave him out when he's playing so well. He's out of position, playing in that fullback role. He's got the whole field in front of him. He's playing both sides of the field. It's too good not to reconsider and go with him again, unless we get some reports that he may be dropped for those medical concerns at all. But if not, then it's Sua in, and then also Milky Jenkins is back. I'm back on the milk, and it is Milky Jenkins. It's not the Raiders, because we know that they're not playing this weekend, unfortunately. But one team always has to miss out, don't they? And unfortunately, that's the Raiders' turn. And there's obviously some argument around having the defending premiers, the minor premiers, not playing in Magic Round. But we digress. Look, hard to go against Milky Jenkins this week, up against the Dragons, who just allowed 130 GDS points to Greggy Marju. down that side of the field. So I think they're going to have an absolute field day down that side. That's why we're keen on McLean as well, because his connection with Jenkins is going to be unreal. Look, even before that, the Dragons were vulnerable. They were allowing an average of 50 GDS points, or 50 plus GDS points over the previous month. That's 5 tries in 4 games. Then Greggy went and scored 5 more, and he extended that to 10 tries down that side in 5 games. And we know that Milky Jenkins did that, in 3 games, he scored 10 tries. So I think he can maybe do one better than Greg Marju potentially, and get 6. Wouldn't that be a sight to see in Magic Round?
Jeez, I wouldn't put it past him. He'd love scoring even numbers. If he scores 5, I bet he's going to score a 6th. He either scores 2, 4, or 0. Milky does just about every match there. Who would have thought wingers are giving us selection headaches where we can't squeeze enough into our sides? That is the 2026 season for you. Just look at a few comments quickly here. Michael Cosy, thanks for joining us, mate. All good, buddy. Enjoy the AFL show. Make sure you catch up on the Rugby League show later on or tomorrow morning. Hopefully we can steer you in the direction of a couple solid picks. Sif Kanga is going the Sewer and To'o combination. Interestingly, he's going the other side of the field there against the Dragons and Dyl. Wouldn't it be just peak Fantasy Bros to load up on Milky Jenkins and everything goes Brian To'o's side? So good luck, Sif Kanga. Hopefully that comes off for you. Hopefully not at our expense, though. And Matty P, the circus crew going Sewer and Marju. He's probably not going to tune into the Panthers game, though, because he's going to bite his fingernails off every single time that ball gets shifted left. Gee, that is a huge fade after seeing what the Dragons allowed on that side of the field last week. And Dyl, just quickly, there was a mention about Azarko. Where are we? It was Sif Kanga. Just think he was thinking Azarko earlier, but we've got Azarko on the fade list, so that's turned him off him. Just a quick summary there. Why?
Yeah, it's just purely down to the matchup at the moment. The Rabbitohs are the 4th hardest matchup to right wingers this week, and they've restricted right wingers to less than 30 or just on 30 GDS points so far across the season. So, yeah, like you said, probably that was a Trell effect, missing plenty of tackles. Potentially as well, Asako might not score as many down that side. They're pretty good defensively down that side, not allowing as many. So, we do talk about Jermaine Asako going up in 3s, and he obviously had a couple of really good games where he was scoring some tries himself. But, yeah, I think if it's going to be the week that we fade him, it'll be this week up against a really tough Rabbitohs side who probably want to bounce back as well and have a really big game with Latrell back in the team.
I dare say we'll be changing our tune if Latrell Mitchell is out. That could be a nice plus matchup there for Bostock and Azarko. The fullbacks, mate, every single week, the fullbacks can't seem to get them right. Plenty of good options again this round here at Magic Round. Kalen Ponga and the Knights in some absolute glorious form. Dyl Edwards with a fantastic matchup with the Dragons. So do so many Penrith Panthers. Latrell Mitchell's back. He's the absolute GOAT of GameDay Squad at the moment, dealing with a bit of an injury, which may cause some coaches to look elsewhere. 3 really good options there. That's not even considering blokes like James Tedesco, Reece Walsh, Drinkwater. We have them as fades. Keanu Kinney has a nice plus matchup as well. 3 fullbacks we can squeeze into our sides. Kalen Pong and Dyl Edwards, I feel, are going to be pretty popular. Latrell Mitchell amongst that group as well. James Tedesco, is he the odd man out? Surely you got to find a spot for him. Who are we leaving out of that for, Dyl?
Yeah, I started putting my team together on Monday before teams were named, and I had Latrell out of the side because it sounded like the issue that left him out of last week's game was going to continue, and he wasn't going to play.
Would have been easier
until Origin. Yeah. It would have been an easy decision. It was going to be Edwards, Ponga, and Teddy. But as you said, Teddy's the one that drops out at the moment, which is so tough. But I think I just have to back the Edwards match up against the Dragons. They're allowing 61 GDS points. The combination of Edwards and Latrell in your fullback role with Ponga there, I think is going to be quite popular. Trell's been named. He's obviously up against that the Dolphins side. And the interesting thing for me is it's been 10 weeks since they've played. We just have to go back to round 1 where they played already, and Trell finished with 89 GDS points. The Dolphins are allowing 45 on average across the season. So I think if we take that, Latrell did also have 2 tries in that game. So if we take that out, it's still a pretty decent stat line, irrespective of those 2 tries. So if for whatever reason the Dolphins do muscle up a little bit more, we're still going to get a really nice output from Trell without that attacking upside. I think that the decision then is Ponga versus the Titans allowing 48 GDS points, or Teddy versus the Cowboys, which is actually the fourth hardest matchup for fullbacks, which is hard to believe that that's the case, because the Cowboys seem to be leaking points all over the park. But the Cowboys are allowing an average of a pretty decent average, but it does include Turbo's 8 points in that 12 minutes that he played. So that might be a little bit deceiving. The last 3 weeks, the Cows have seen 61, 25, and 50 from Joash Papali'i, Connor Tracy, and then Will Kenny, respectively. So Teddy's a lot better than those three. So yeah, I think it'll be one of those games where I'll be watching with my hands over my eyes, because I am leaning the Pong away at the moment, because the Titans just gave up 84, 55, and 29 in the last 3 weeks. That's to Teddy. Dane Laurie, in only 60-odd minutes, he scored 55, and then CNK, 29 points there. So I'm leaning Ponga just ahead, probably purely just based on the kicking goals upside, more so than anything else. Plus, if Latrell is ruled out, then it's an easy pivot to Teddy, if that's the case, because they're playing after the Dolphins-Rabbitohs game.
Yeah, make life easier, please. Rest up, Latrell Mitchell. I'm sure a lot of New South Wales Blues fans will echo those sentiments as well. They need him fit and firing if the Blues are to do any good this Origin series. You would imagine Sif Kanga, Ponga, Edwards, and Teddy. Matty P, Ponga, Teddy, and Latrell, provided he is fit, of course. A lot of people hanging out for some Latrell Mitchell news. Gee, wouldn't you hate him to go down early and with that injury? You want, if he's named, that he's fit and firing, ready to go. So fingers crossed he is. You'd hate to see someone that good go down with an injury. So if he is named, you probably do expect that he's close to full fitness, if not 100%. Just quickly, Reece Walsh, really interesting stat here that you've got, mate. Tell us about what's happening with Broncos against Warriors players.
Yeah, Warriors are restricting fullbacks to 47 GDS points this season, which I think last year they were one of the key matchups that we had for fullbacks throughout the season. The Warriors, to add to that, they haven't allowed a try or a try assist to a fullback in the last 3 weeks. So, and over the last month, they've restricted fullbacks to less than 40 GDS points. So we know Walsh can have a really poor game. We saw that last week where it just wasn't enough from him as we usually expect. We know that he can have some really massive ceiling games as well. So yeah, if the stats say something, it means to fade Reece Walsh, and it's quite difficult to get him into your sides outside probably some of the special competitions that he's available in. So yeah, for me, he's a pretty easy fade. Just looking quickly at the percentage plays as well over on StatsLab, Edwards is actually the fourth option at the moment. James Tedesco, Ponga, and Latrell are all the top 3 played. Dylan Edwards, 35% of teams are playing Dylan Edwards across all competitions. So very interesting to see. He's got the best matchup of anyone, but he is potentially being the one that's faded most. So yeah, really interesting there. And then just on Drinkwater, it's a tough one. They're a tough matchup. Do you expect him to get more ball with Dearden now being out for 6 or 8 weeks, supposedly?
Yeah, probably expect him to take on the reins a little bit more. But that just probably means, more likely to push the pass, make some injuries. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be, as clean or concise with ball in hand. They don't have Jason Taumalolo this round. He's being, rested so that he can play his milestone match up there in North Queensland. That matchup with the Roosters, I don't want any bar of Scotty Drinkwater. He'll be a look to see what he does do with no Tommy Dearden in the side, and how much of a role he does take on in Dearden's absence. Should be quite interesting, but no play this round, but certainly someone that we may look at over the next few in Tommy Dearden's absence. Speaking of the prime time, mate, on screen here is our consensus Stats Lab prime time competition, where thanks to our wonderful friends over at the Stats Lab, they've built our squad based on a whole heap of data and statistics available on that website. So a massive shout out to them for their ongoing support of the Fantasy Bros. Make sure you head over to the statslab.app and you check out their awesome tools that they've got available. Player stats for every game, matchup strength, player comparisons, and so much more. They'll help you dominate GameDay Squad. And we're hoping these are the guys that are going to dominate our primetime competition. Remember, just the 2 games Friday. We'll run through our starting 13 nice and quickly. Leo Thompson, Adam Fanua-Blake, and Cam Murray, our middles, with the pod there in Beryl as the hooker G. While I'm reading through this deal, bring up his percentage played, please. I'm interested to see that. Kulakefi, Fini Fuiaki, and Jacob Preston in the back row position. Nico Hines, Isaiah Katoa as our halves. Herbie Farnworth, Kaoliro, Centers, Zarko, Ronaldo makes his return from an ACL. Percentage on him would be fantastic as well, if possible. Not expecting massive things from him. I think that's just a huge play, and it could definitely come off. And Latrell Mitchell, obviously, there if fit and firing. If not, Hammer is probably a pretty easy play as the number 1 fullback. Have you managed to get those percentages at all?
Yep, Jaden Beryl, 0.3% across all standard
Love
comps,
it.
and then 11% in the prime time. So yeah, definitely a big pod there. And then Ronnie Muatalo, only 12% owned in prime time at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think some really good pod opportunities there. Generally, we try and hide the pods on the bench, but we've got them in full view for everyone to see. So yeah, get around those because those are the blokes that we're really keen on.
Oh yeah, if they come off. How good. And here's our consensus starting 13 for Magic Round. We're hoping these are the blokes. They're going to soar us up the leaderboards. We've spoken about most of these guys at length and probably made a few changes on the run as well. Alex Twal, Terrell May, and Isaiah Yeo is snuck in there. I think we've changed that to a Toby Couchman after our discussions. Harry Grant there at hooker. Haumole Olakau'atu, Dill Lucas on screen. We've probably replaced him with Siwa Wong. Nathan Cleary, Nico Hines, pretty consistent there in the halves. Herbie Farnworth, Tolu Kula, we're both very keen on. Suafa'alongo, Tommy Jenkins, and Kalen Ponga at the moment has that number 1 fullback spot. But look, that could be anyone. Toss a coin 3 or 4 times and you'll get 3 or 4 different results. And that's the fullback that's going to go off. So yeah, there you go. There's our starting 13. If you want to copy and paste some of those selections, if you want to bet against us, by all means. But pretty confident in a number of these blokes getting the job done this round. All right, BroDown ShowDown. I'm keeping up. Whenever you get 2 in front, Dill, I'm just managing to claw 1 back. You've still got a break point on me. It's your serve again this week, but I'm hanging in there. Nathan Cleary, just over Nico Hines. Simi Sasangi got an injury. Olakau'atu dominant anyway, but it was the Latrell Mitchell versus Kalen Ponga matchup that was going to decide this. Latrell Mitchell obviously ruled out and didn't take the field. So I'll take anyway, the win will come when I'm down by 2. But that just means that anyone that voted for me in last week's show will have their name on the wheel. We spun that off the show, off camera, just to speed things up a little bit. And of those people that voted for me last week, it was Tony's Legends that spun and won the competition. So thanks again, Tony's Legends, for the support and well done on winning round 10 BroDown ShowDown. Dill, are you going to do the honors and see what Tony has won?
Yeah, definitely. So on screen, we should see the rare pack there. Just let me know when that is.
Yep.
Perfect. Alrighty, congratulations, mate. You're going to get all of the cards that we pull here from the rare pack. So once we've sorted this out, make sure you hit us up over on Discord and we'll get some trades for you. So we've got a Brian Kelly gold, Josh Papali'i gold, Shibasaki gold, Christensen, Ison going to be a great future talent. Ben Tolsey's played a few games. Stuff. Jack DeBellin named again, and then Clydesdale there in the plat. So plenty of golds there to get into your side and a couple of really good up-and-coming players, particularly Ison and Joash Papali'i.
There you go. On screen is BroDown ShowDown for Magic Round. Dill's up 6-5 so far, and Dill has the first pick in the hooker and the winger position. He's gone Harry Grant over Maya Reese Robson, Herbie Farnworth versus Tolu Kula as centers, Suafa'alongo, Tommy Jenkins. We spoke about a number of those guys at length and sort of spoke about them in the same breath because of how similar they are in our rankings. Let us know in the comment section if you think that my players in Robson, Farnworth and Fa'alongo will get their head-to-head wins against Grant, Kula and Tommy Jenkins. Comment Stu, comment Dill, either live on the chat now on Apple, Spotify or YouTube once the videos go live. Sif Kang is going blind again. Didn't even need to look at the selections. He thinks I'm going to tie the scores up at 6. We've got JB. We got Boney there going Stu as always. Thanks for the support, buddy. And Dyl, 100%. Michael Cozzy reckons. Gee, I haven't seen that much confidence. I don't know how it can be 100% when there are 3 votes to 1 at the moment, Michael Cozzy, but I'll pick that bone with you off camera a little bit later on, mate. We got Matty P, Stu, Mel's, Stu as well. I hate when everyone's commenting my name because you just know how that's going to end, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Love it. Love it.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. What a show. What a weekend. Magic Round is set to be. Cannot wait. There's going to be plenty of footy. Let's hope the weather holds off a little bit and we get a little bit of sunshine there. The field holds up nicely and we get a whole heap of really good footy. Enjoy if you're going to be there, everyone. We want to hear some Magic Round stories on the chat next Wednesday night. Dyl, good luck this weekend, buddy. Let's bounce back up that leaderboard. Thanks for joining us once again, everyone. Enjoy the weekend. See you next time.
Thanks, guys. Just a quick reminder, we're probably going to be heading to Magic Round Saturday during the day. Hopefully that rain stays away. So if you are there, make sure you come down to either Caxton Hotel or probably Lefties. We might get you a cheeky Lefty special there. And we'll make sure that we have a heaps of fun. All right. Have a good one. Good luck, everybody, for the round. Cheers, guys.
See ya.